video, I'm going to talk about what is jQuery and how you can start using jQuery in your HTML web pages. jQuery is basically a set of codes which is also known as a code library written on top of the JavaScript programming language which is read and executed by web browsers. To use jQuery, you must have some understanding of how web pages are built using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In a nutshell, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript works hand in hand. HTML codes are used to contain the structure and content of your web pages. CSS, which is contained in the style tag, is the layer of code that builds on top of HTML that provides the look and feel of your web page. JavaScript or jQuery are the codes which are embedded into HTML in the script tag read by the browser to provide interactivity for your web pages, which is also why JavaScript or jQuery is known as client-side scripting, because they are downloaded together with the web pages and interpreted by the browser. So what exactly is the difference between JavaScript and jQuery? jQuery is written on top of JavaScript to create coding shortcuts which allows web developers to achieve more functionality yet using less codes. To illustrate the difference, let's take a look at a simple functionality on how to add and remove content to a web page by using both JavaScript and jQuery to do this. I have some basic HTML to begin with and I have a button here which I'm going to assign some interactivity to by using JavaScript to add content into the div tag colored in yellow, which is assigned with the ID div content. Now I need to create a JavaScript function which is something like a reusable set of procedures that can be executed upon a certain event, such as a mouse click. In JavaScript, in order to add new text into an existing HTML tag, I first have to look for an element which I want to add content into by executing the statement document.getElementById element ID name to look for the HTML tag by ID. JavaScript allows you to search for tag elements by ID, tag names, and so on. I then throw the element into a variable known as div element. Contents in the JavaScript element can be referred to by using the inner HTML property. So what I'm going to do now is to assign its current inner HTML property and add on with the new content, which is a string of text called new content contained in the p tag. Now that the function has been created, it won't be called upon until you have assigned it to an event handler. All elements in HTML can be assigned with an event handler, such as, for example, a click is an event, and you want the button to handle the event. To declare a click event handler on the button, I first have to look for my button using the getElementById function again and throw it into a variable container. Now the button add content element variable is created, I will use the .onClick statement to further assign the function it is supposed to execute. You can see how the button adds the new content to the div now. Next, I'm going to remove the yellow div by using the remove button. In order for elements to be removed in JavaScript, you have to point to the element's parent and call the function removeChild from the parent node to remove itself. Only a parent can remove a child in JavaScript. Next is to assign an onClick event handler to the button removeContent to execute the removeContent function. This is how things are done in JavaScript. Whereas if you were to do this in jQuery, I first have to import the library of the jQuery.js. I can now use jQuery commands in my HTML. I will first search for the button element in HTML by using the jQuery selector, represented by a $, and using the ID that I'm looking for, denoted by a hex prefix. I will then assign an event handler using the on function. The first parameter is to define the type of event handled by the handler. The second argument is for the function name, which is initiated by the event. To add content into a div, we simply have to use the jQuery selector again to look for the div we want to add content into. By using jQuery function known as append, we can add new things to the div. Similarly to remove, we use the selector again to look for the div we want to remove and execute the remove function. Things work perfectly the same, achieving the objective of write less, do more. Now let us take a look at the differences of the two codes achieving the same result. As you can see, jQuery not only shortens the way to write codes, but the syntax is much more intuitive. There is much more to jQuery than just shortening codes. It has additional features like creating animations, providing for AJAX capability, UI manipulation, and much more, which you probably need to write tons of JavaScript codes to achieve the same. Some people might ask, do you need to know JavaScript to learn jQuery? My answer is no. JavaScript is probably a good foundation to have, but I personally started off with jQuery first.